We'll call to order the budget meeting for November 20th, 2023. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any general public comment before we start tonight? Seeing none, we will go to the presentation of our 2024 general fund budget.
Okay, that is me, and I will read into the record the Circulation 11-018. The 2024 budget was presented to Council on October 16th, 2023. Advertised workshop meetings were held on October 16th and 23rd with department directors and the Township's emergency services providers, Harmonville Fire Company, Plymouth Fire Company, and the Plymouth Community Ambulance Association. Final adoption is scheduled for the regular meeting of December 11th, 2023. We have made the proposed balanced budget document available on the Township website. Revenues for 2024 are projected at $28,533,142. The earned income tax represents 30% of revenues, business taxes are 28%, and real estate taxes are 16%. Budgeted real estate tax collections are based on a proposed millage of 1.957. The fire services fee is based on a proposed millage of 0.82. A typical Plymouth home assessed at $180,000 would pay $352 in real estate taxes for all municipal services and $148 for fire services. The assessed valuation for all property in the township is $1.693 billion. Total general fund expenditures for 2024 are projected at $25,418,915, an increase of 7.21% from last year. The police department is the largest expenditure at 38% of the budget, followed by sanitation and public works at 11%, fire and emergency management at 8%, and buildings and grounds at 5%.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Moving down to the sewer fund, rate increase ordinance. That is that in here somewhere?
Yeah, so there's the second, it's 11-020. It's actually, Jim hasn't stapled the next way. She has it highlighted, sewer funds and capital funds.
Oh,
It was a separate.
Got it.
So we'll go. We want to go over the sewer fund, capital sewer fund, and then we do have a rate increase ordinance proposed. But take this one away, Kellen.
Yeah. So if you look at page 1 of the sewer and capital packet, it just shows what the, at the bottom there you see the anticipated sewer fund cash balance. At the beginning of next year, we're planning on starting out with $3.54 million. And currently, if we are predicting to do all the projects that we'll go over in a second, we'll have about $8.8 million in expenses, which comes to a $2.9 million deficit in the fund. And that does take in consideration a transfer of $2 million from the general fund to the sewer fund to complete certain projects. The next page goes into more in depth in the revenues of the sewer fund. As mentioned in other meetings, we've been doing pretty good with interest. That's the same with the sewer fund. We overperformed what we expected from interest. I predicted about $65,000 in interest for next year. If you look to the next section, revenues from customers, you'll see a 9% increase in the current sewer rates. We're proposing a 9% increase in the rates for everyone but the well users, which we'll go into more in a second. Other than that, for the most part, the rest of the revenues we're expecting to stay relatively the same. And if you go lower to the transfer from the general fund, that's what I was speaking of earlier. That's going to help cover some of the project money that we're going to need. That's mainly for the sewer interceptor.
What page is that on?
It's right here.
Two.
Page
Two.
two.
Above it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
$2 million transfer is going to pay for that
Oh, I
Plymouth
didn't see that.
Interceptor.
Thank you.
Yep, that's new for this year. And then other revenues we're expecting is $125,000 in sewer connection fees from the East Norton Plymouth Whitpain Joint Sewer Authority. And we probably won't, but we're just putting in the budget money from the Conshohocken Borough Authority and money for sanitary sewer outfall. So for the next page, that begins.
Kellen, sorry, just one question. Does this budget not include any potential grant money that would be out there for the sewer, or is that in here somewhere?
It does not.
It doesn't
any
include
grants.
anything, no.
No, but we are applying for a $1 million grant on that Plymouth Road
Right.
Interceptor, in that Plymouth Interceptor, not the Plymouth Road. That's a separate project from the Plymouth Interceptor Phase 3.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay,
So potentially, there could be.
It could
Yeah,
help
there could
if we
be.
could
Yeah,
get
yeah.
a
If we get a
million, could
grant,
help.
yeah.
And then when we put it back out to bid, hopefully it'll be still around the 4.3 and not a lot larger. I mean, it could be more, it could be less, but, you never know until you get it out to bid.
So page 3 begins the expenses. There's administration, there's not a whole lot of increase in any of the expenses. We're projecting to be about the same. In the collection system, that isn't part where, I guess it would be Chris's guys, when we did the Public Works budget back a month ago, showed how the different salaries for all the ASME guys and how their time gets allotted to different things. So that increase of 37.5 isn't really an extra increase to their actual salaries. It's just that I put more into that budget for the next year because if you see at the year to date, it's at 37,000. In 2020, for this year, we budgeted 20,000. So I figured next year we put in more. So that's the only reason why that goes up so much. There's nothing actually increasing other than just the salary itself. And that's the same with the overtime as well. But other than that, for the most part, the sewer budget on the operating side is relatively flat for the year, for next year. The next page is where we see increases in the sewer budget. For sewer treatment, the operating costs for the East Norton Plymouth Whitpain plant is going to increase about 1.55%, which is $17,000 from last year. The Conshohocken Authority and for other treatment plants, expecting it to stay relatively the same. For capital contribution costs, the East Norton Plymouth Whitpain plant is going to be a slight increase. These are the numbers we get from the plant itself too. We get that from, I guess it would be Tim Boyd down there.
Right in the country plant.
Yep. And so we're expecting it to be about $440,000 for capital costs for the East Norton plant next year. And we'll see more in the 5-year budget how the capital contributions for Conshohocken Authority, they're not set as flat as the East Norton plant is. They go up and down. There's a contract with them, right? Or not contract, but an agreement with them that they can't go over a certain amount per year.
Yeah, I think really the main thing is the East Norton Plymouth plant, that $440,000 is a bond money. That's debt service, and that's why it's the same, pretty much. And Tim can tell you what that is. It's very close to last year's budget, it was $441.66. In Conshohocken, they don't have a lot of debt. They just schedule their projects, and we'll go through a 5-year plan. You'll see they just try to figure out what they need done the most, and then that's how they do it. And we have to pay 26.2% of all the capital costs to the plant. So that's because we have we have capacity in that plant that we own. So we have to help pay for the capital. But it's not a set amount like debt service would be.
Yeah. So the next line down, the transfers. We went over this in I think one of the first meetings. There's going to be an increase to the transfer to the general fund. This increase is for fringe benefits for people that are working or that aren't directly expensed in the sewer fund, such as like people like me, Karen, Pat, Chris, certain employees like that, and their fringe benefits are going to be paid back to the general fund. So we're going to be taking the time that would generally be expensed in the sewer fund, but we're just transferring back to the general fund. And that also includes their health care and pension and other fringe benefit costs. That wasn't changed for almost like 12, 13 years, I believe. So that's why you see such a big jump in it.
This is for the people who send out the sewer bills, and
Yeah.
Annalisa collects all the payments and applies it against every individual account.
Rather than
The
taking
costs, I think,
Yeah.
didn't the auditor say to, like, the...
Yeah, he wanted to see that
He wants to
change because
see-
it's been consistently the same number for the past 10, 11, 12 years.
The fund should pay for the people's time who work in that.
Yeah, and it's a lot easier just making a transfer back than actually taking 2% of someone's salary, 4% of another person's salary. It's just a lot easier on the administration side, especially for payroll for Pat. Down lower is where you see the capital projects for the sewer come in. The sewer slip lining project, that's something that we're trying to do every year, about $400,000 in sewer slip lining to protect old pipes. The next one's the sewer Plymouth Interceptor Phase 3. This one came in way over budget from what we originally were told or quoted at. Yeah, so actually that's the lowest of the 3 bids, $4.3 million. I think that one of them went up to about $6.4 million.
6.5.
So that project over the years definitely exceeded, our cost definitely went up for that project. And the Ridge Pike sewer replacement, it's also something that we've been waiting to do. Hopefully, we should be able to get to it next year. But ultimately, that is why they saw on one of the first pages is that why we need to transfer $2 million into this fund to cover, mainly because of the Plymouth Interceptor project. Just became very expensive and something that needs to get done.
And Karen, you remember it's that $700,000 when they did the Ridge Pike ribbon cutting. So when we said that we paid Pannoni to design a replacement of the township sewer in Ridge Pike, their estimate was $700,000. But it'll save us a lot. We're going to piggyback onto the county's contract so that we don't have to pay to restore the road. Yeah, so they'll do our sewer while the road's open. And it's been designed and estimated that cost. But again, we won't know the actual cost until the contractor tells us how much it is. And I'm sure we'll have a chance to double check it and vet it. But Pannoni will check that for us.
So on page 5 is a 5-year plan for the sewer funds. As you see in 2025, we get very low on the fund balance, below $200,000. And if you look back up top to the revenue, we go from start there with the revenue. We're expecting about a 9% increase per year, and this is just for all the customers except for the well customers. We will begin to increase those fees once they become the same as the regular sewer customers, because right now they're paying more. And for the most part, other than the increase of 9% each year for the sewer, the regular sewer billing, everything is predicted to stay about the same for the next 5 years, revenue-wise. Expenditure-wise, down below, just doing a general 3.5% across the board for the operating costs. When you get down to the contributions, you see the East Norton Plymouth Whitpain plant stays flat for the next 5 years, and as Karen said with the bond. The capital for the borough Conshohocken, you see goes up and down. In 2025, it goes up to $837,000, and then it goes back down to $100,000 in 2016 and 2017, and in 2018 there was not a number in the plan that they'd given us. Sewer slip lining projects, we try to do about $400,000 of that per year. And if we do end up in any given year having any extra money available, we'll put more money into that. The Plymouth Interceptor Phase 3, next year is going to be $4.3 million. And the same with the Ridge Pike is going to be about $700,000. The repayment to the general fund, this is going to be just the repayment of the $2 million. And what I did was try to spread it out so we would have a sufficient fund balance as well as pay back the general fund. And it looks like about in 4 years, we'll be able to pay back that $2 million, while also giving the sewer fund plenty of fund balance to deal with any other expenses that come along. And the overhead charge is just about a 2 to 2.5 increase each year to pay back to the general fund.
And Callan, that 9% rate increase, I mean, that's kind of, like, we've been doing like sort of
Correct.
7 to 9, somewhere in
Yep.
that range.
Yep. Yeah, for the past couple of years now.
Yeah, and you'll see at the bottom of the next page how low our rates still are.
Yeah, I mean, still better than if we sold
yeah.
the system and
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
going up 100%.
And because the rates are so
If
low,
you're
that
lucky,
9%, and because the rates are so low, that 9% increase seems like a lot, but because it's already so low, it doesn't really increase the rates a whole lot. But, so on page 6, you see what the rates are for 2023, and with the increase of 9% to 2024. And as I mentioned before, the well rates, we're going to keep the same until the rates for the regular customers come to the same rates as the well customers, and then we'll start increasing the well rates as well. And then if you look to the middle of the page, this is just, I guess this would be like the average for a typical family. In 2023, it would be for a quarterly bill about $68.72. For next year, it will be about $74.93. And if you look below that, that's the neighbors we have, Whitpain, White Marsh, and a private company. Whitpain just said increase their rates or are projecting to increase the rates next year from $95 a quarter to $100. White Marsh, it looks like they may be staying the same at $89.58. And as you can see, the private companies for a 2023 rate per quarter comes to almost 5 times as much as what a quarterly bill would be for Plymouth residents.
This is someone we know in Worcester who has Aqua.
And that's
It's a real bill.
and that's
Quarterly.
actually one of the lowest. That's not using a whole lot of water either. It's just 2 people in a house.
I
So
have a friend in over, like, near Drescher, and she's paying like 400
Quarter?
I believe it.
375 to 400 a quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, going the millage way rather than selling it to private really has saved our residents a lot of money
Absolutely.
by borrowing money.
I mean, we will have to do like that $4.3 million project, but still, I think it was the right decision. Yeah.
Yep. And still one of the lowest in the county too. So then the next page is the sewer ordinance itself. What will be approved, I guess, at the December
Yeah, so I
11th
guess
meeting.
we definitely need your approval tonight, if this is okay to put forward. We'll have to, we'll post it on the website as a proposed ordinance, and we'll have it advertised next week so that it's in time for adoption on December 11th, if you're all in favor. So we can go ahead with that one?
Questions?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
Just, and I know I asked about it already, but in terms of that grant, what is if we are awarded the grant, what's
Right.
the timetable that we would find out, do you know?
I think it might not be till next summer or fall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that would be a nice bonus then.
Yeah, it would be a great bonus. Usually you can't do the project in advance, so we'd kind of have to hold off.
Gotcha.
Because if you've already done the work, they're not going to give you the money for it. So.
That
this is
number,
okay.
that cost for the Interceptor, that 4.3, is that, if the project's not done till the summer, does that
Clear
bid
over
last,
there.
or does that
Oh,
give?
no, it was rejected. All bids were rejected.
So it will go out to bid?
We'll have to go again.
Again.
Yeah. Yeah. That was just the low bid. Yeah, but all those bids were rejected. So they could all come in a lot higher, but you could get somebody lower, or hopefully the same or lower. But no, there's no guarantees. They were all
Gotcha.
rejected. Bids are only good for like 30 days.
Okay.
And then you have to act on it, reject it or accept it. Even Alan Mason thought, though, that was too high. And, he came up with the projection of about $2 million, so he was really surprised when it was 4.3. And then his recommendation was reject and try to get a grant, so that's where we are.
Hope for the best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no guarantees.
So, are there any other questions on the sewer fund? Okay. On page 9, There is the debt service, statement for our debt service. As you can see, it is relatively flat for the next 5 years. There's not really anything you can do for the debt service. That's what we're going to be paying back for the next 30 years. Down below, the general fund, the bond series of 2021 we got for $9.13 million. 2022 we received $9.995 million. And again, we'll be paying that for 30 years. And that's going to be what you see for these 5 years is what we're pretty much going to be paying for the next 30 years.
What was our interest rate on those again?
It was around 3% for the most recent one. I can go back and check.
In a ballpark, that's fine.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit over 3%. It varied from year to year, but for the average, it was around 3.5%. Now I don't know what it would be if we would go out for it right now.
Not that low.
Not that low. Yep. Okay. On page 10 is the capital reserve fund. As you can see, there's going to be projects in the future that we might have to either hold off on or transfer more money from the general fund because we do hit a negative fund balance beginning at the end of 2025. Next year, project-wise, obviously the big one is the township building. We're budgeting another $3 million for that, for whatever we go over that we can't pay with our bonds. The next big expense for next year would be the firehouse at $2 million. And then the other projects are ones that we see normally every year. The annual street paving at $300,000. The New Hope Street Bridge, I think that's been budgeted for several years now. It just keeps getting pushed off.
Because it's holding. It's
Yeah.
moving.
For finance, I think at the last meeting, Len said, asked about going out to bid for a phone system. We have that budgeted for next year. And then for building and grounds, the fencing for Public Works comes in around $50,000. New garage doors for the Public Works building, that's $75,000. Parking lot paving for codes and police, $20,000. And the roof over the Coolum Tower enclosure, $25,000. And also some vehicles that buildings and grounds, as well as Public Works, wants to buy. I think Chris wants to buy a new trash truck. That's about $225,000. A highway swap loader for $100,000. I think that's a grant. Is that?
Yes,
is that
usually we
correct?
get, the recycling grant.
And then Rick wants to buy a new truck for building and grounds for about $60,000. And then the next 4 years, you can see for just other projects that will be coming down the road. Obviously, we're going to have to make decisions on whether to do some or transfer more money from the general fund to fund the capital reserve to pay for these projects.
So the buildings and grounds, the new dump truck, that amount, the $60,000 includes
The trade-in.
The trade-in.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that's
It's
already
net,
been
yeah.
subtracted out.
Yep.
The other vehicles and equipment, those are not really like discretionary purchases, those are necessary purchases, is that correct?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with them. So the trash trucks, they usually get like one chassis, and that would have two bodies on it. So a body might last 4 to 5 years, and so sometimes he'll just be asking for like the hopper part of it, and other times he needs the truck, the truck that the chassis sits on. You need the chassis that the truck sits on. So I think to keep them, in good shape, and I guess when Chris was here, he talked probably about
Mhm.
needing that.
He did.
Yeah, and trying to keep everything, in the fleet, so it doesn't break down too much. And
Sure.
yeah, but I think they get like 10 to 12 years out of one chassis, and it would take two bodies in that time frame.
So are there any other questions on the capital reserve fund? Okay. The next three funds two are traffic funds and another is a stormwater fund. As you can see, just looking at all three, we're not expecting to have any projects in the future. or at least in the next 5 years for any of these three funds. The big one for this year, we did the Allenwood and Ridge improvement for $1.5 million. Other than that, for Act 209 Area 1, we don't have any projects or at least see any projects in the future for that, nor for Act 209 Area 2. And for stormwater outfall, again, we aren't predicting any projects in the next 5 years.
These, like these fees are the traffic impact fees? Is that, so
Yes.
for example,
Yep.
like if there were to happen to be a new development or multifamily development, there would be increase in fees for there, or is that?
Yeah, so you can see they're projecting some revenue in these funds, so that would be developers paying that in, and some interest on the money, but no expenses. Now, the expenses, the projects have to be on a list, that was compiled the last time we updated our Act 209 study. In fact, Carol and I just looked at the list recently, and some of the things on there cost more than these balances that we have. So we don't have enough money to do some of them. So you accumulate the money, and then when you have enough, you do a project from the list. When the list is pretty well, you've accomplished some of them, you would have to start all over with the Act 209 study to add more projects to the list. So, and that's a big process. It takes about a year to update your 209.
Who conducts that study?
So usually, like the township engineer would be a big part of it. We need, and some other consultants. Ken Amy would be involved. You do a land use assumptions map and to decide what traffic improvements are needed where, some added signals or lengthen, acceleration lane, decel lane, or a left-hand turn lane somewhere. There's a lot of steps to it. You have to form a committee of residents and staff. You have to have advertised, hearings with court reporters. It's a big deal. It's a long process. You have your capital improvements plan at the end. There's like 3 steps to it: a roadway sufficiency, and then the land use assumptions, and then the capital improvements plan. So
How often do we do that?
I've done it twice. 30 years, 29 years, so.
Not often.
Not too often.
Not too often.
Not too often.
It sounds expensive.
It is. It can be that too, yes.
Traffic
It-
lights are expensive.
Oh, yeah. Well, in the end, I guess you have to prove the need for it, and then PennDOT has to approve it if you want a signal somewhere. Or like a change to a signal, add an arrow, like at, Sandy Hill and Belvoir. When they did that, only one direction gets an arrow. The other directions don't get an arrow. So if you wanted to optimize that and make everybody get an arrow, that could be something like that would be in the plan, something like that. But again, it has to be there before you can do it with this money.
So on page 12 then, is the Parks 5-year plan. We went over this at the first meeting with Phil and Rick. This is actually the same exact list. And you can see this is the same scenario as with the capital reserve. We do what projects we can afford to do, move back what projects we have to move back, and if we need to add projects in or fund them, we'll either use general fund money, go out for grants. But as you can see, the fund balance is completed by 2025, at the end of 2025, if we do all the projects we're looking to do.
Phil just attended the workshop that you need to attend to do a grant for JFK Park. They think that playground needs to be done next. And maybe actually a little bit more, maybe change the baseball field to a soccer field and put some, they just took the bocce courts out, maybe update the volleyball courts or something, just do it. It would be a whole park project, not just a playground. Everybody's thinking.
So it's possible that that 350 is at least partially covered by a grant?
We're hopeful, yeah.
Because it seems like that's a big nut in terms of, that's the thing that throws us into a deficit
Yes.
in 2025.
Yeah, so like the East Plymouth Valley accessible playground that was just done, that was $500,000. And half of it was a grant, and we put up $250 and the grant was $250. But yeah, and that was just the playground. That wasn't just with the spongy surface throughout, that was a big expense. But yeah, playgrounds can be very expensive.
It's an accessible playground so that children of all abilities
Yeah.
can take
Yes,
advantage of.
yeah, but it was $500,000. I'm just saying, they're very expensive. All playgrounds are, whether, you know.
Typically, does a grant cover like half the expense of a playground?
Some of them are 50/50. Yeah, so, I mean, if we only, the total thing was 400, we would get 200, and they would pay 200, yeah. That's- Yeah.
If there's no questions on that, on page 13 and 14, this shows all the projects then for the capital, all capital projects, including sewer and community center. So it's just really a summary of everything we just went over. One thing it does have on here that we didn't have in this packet, we went over the first night, was the community center projects. The big one being the pool pump room for $2 million for next year. That's on page, that's on the top of page 14. Yeah, all the other projects we just went over.
Yeah.
So-
I was gonna say, and then Rick told us today, they have to, for the whirlpool, the spa, they have to dig up the floor inside to try to find out where it's broken. And it's,
Yeah, a lot of people have been saying it's
Yeah.
still not.
I know, it's closed because it's leaking like lots and lots of water.
That's
So
what all the testing was for, too.
Yes, they did a pressure testing, and they found out that there's one of the pipe that feeds the jets,
Yeah.
and that water that gets pushed through there, that pipe is not holding, so the jets aren't working. But inside, they have to dig up the floor to get to
That's
the pipes.
big.
It's a big deal. And then he
Yeah.
said, but they do have some spare spare parts to put the floor back together. You know, it's a shame to have to wreck the pool deck, but you
Yeah.
got to do what you got to do.
I have a
So we
question
don't know
on
what
these-
that'll cost.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, sorry.
I had a question on the color coding that's mentioned in the various parks. Does that mean painting lines for the different sports like pickleball and basketball and?
Basketball, I think one park, they're just going to get rid of the hockey, lines, right?
Lines, yeah.
I think so, yeah. So yeah, it would be just like the resurfacing and painting of the basketball, tennis, those courts.
And pickleball at Colwell, right?
Yeah, it's whatever the Parks Board has been talking about, wherever to put them, because I don't think they're going to change the tennis courts at EPV. They'll just stay as
No,
tennis.
that's
They'll stay as
last I heard
tennis
is they're
courts.
staying as tennis
And then
courts.
there will be, wherever, I know Rick, he attends these meetings too, or Phil, so wherever it was decided to put the pickleball, then that'll be done too. I think Colwell definitely, because people down there were actually bringing their own masking tape or, color tape,
Yeah,
and putting
that's
it down, they
big
made
lines.
their own. So
There's-
they're playing it down there
Mhm.
already, but we'll get permanent lines in some of those courts for
Yep.
that.
I know
Where else?
the Parks Department went down to East Plymouth Valley to determine if the tennis courts are being used for tennis, and they are actively in use a lot.
And they give a lot of lessons, and the school teams use them too. Yeah,
So they need tennis courts there.
yeah.
Does this current whirlpool project impact next year's budget? Like,
We don't know yet. I mean, there's less than a month and a half left of this year, but, they're going to dig that up and try to figure it out. Hopefully it's,
I mean, it sounds significant. I'm guessing that there's not dollars remaining in this budget to handle a big project in 2023.
well, we still have money this year if it does, I don't know.
If we have to do the Whirlpool project.
To be determined,
Yeah, if we have to do the Whirlpool project, whatever amount that is,
Hopefully it won't be.
hopefully it won't be a lot, but we would probably use some of the general fund money and transfer it out and cover it that way. Not ideal, but if it has to get done, it has to get done.
Is the pump room going to really be done? I know we put it off for many years.
We never put it out to bid, but, so the question is,
How much?
I think that they feel it really does need to be done. The hangers that are holding the pipes are all rusty, and if they completely break, then the pipes may fall. So,
Yeah.
from what I'm hearing, it really needs to be done. The decision was
Then it
made to
will be a
keep the pool,
massive
so then it'll
amount.
be a big expense.
That's a big one.
Yeah, it's a big expense. Yeah, whether something else has to wait because of the spa, I don't know. I don't know, but we'll be back in touch when we know how much it costs. Thank you.
Kellen, just one thing I didn't see, I feel like we usually have this somewhere. So, or maybe we don't know yet, but are we ending 2023 with surplus from what we budgeted? Are we ending 2023 with what we budgeted? Was that in here somewhere? or did
Probably in
I-
this book here, right?
You mean for 2023?
Yeah, for the end of this year.
Yeah, so I think it's about a $500,000 surplus from what we budgeted in 2023.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that would be, it would be in the first, yeah, it would be in the first.
Budget book.
Actually, it doesn't show it, but,
Standard pages or not? There's the 23 and the 24 budget. Does that help?
no, because none of this is the projected budget.
Okay.
So.
You're looking for actuals, like
Yeah, so,
estimates at this point?
so from our 2022 audit at the end of the year, the general fund had, I think, about 15.35 million ending. And then, so if we begin that and end it, what we see at the beginning of 2024, if you still have the first one there, you see we begin with 15.8. So we're going to have about a $500,000 surplus from what we've originally budgeted.
Got it. Thank you.
So it's the next one in the park.
End of the month agenda, but so we did 11/021 is next.
Uh,
That's where you are
I think so.
from here.
11/021?
Yes.
Is it blue one?
We're on contributions now.
Okay, so then we just do this, kind of skip this one, or we went over it.
Yeah, I mean, I
Summary.
read the,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
That's the summary of this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
So fire company's ambulance,
Yes.
11/021?
Yes.
So for the 2024 budget, for both companies, I thought we'd just stick to what we've been doing and have about, for the operating contribution, about a 5% increase for each. And then for the capital contribution, for each company, another $8,000 to bring it to $115,000. When we do this, if you look at the bottom there, the total direct assistance to both companies comes to about 1.37 million, and that is almost equivalent to what the millage increase would be. So from 0.72 mils for the fire services to 0.82 mils, that comes to about 1.37 million in revenue. So that offsets what we're getting from both companies here. So that was the idea behind that. And then for the ambulance, I just thought we'd just stay to the same from last year because they didn't really give us anything specific. So an operating contribution of 70,000 and an offset of gasoline of 30,000.
That should be the bottom there.
The other, and also in addition to everything that we do give to the ambulance and fire companies, we do offer other things such as phones, insurances, grass cutting services, which comes at about which comes about 77,000, and for the ambulance about 10,000 extra. So on top of that 1.37 million, we're also giving them about another roughly $80,000 in other services.
So it goes to, so the increase for Harmonville is 5.01%, that's everything total, right? And then the
Mhm.
increase for Plymouth is 5.9%,
Correct.
which is everything total. That doesn't include the loan for Harmonville, correct?
No.
Correct.
Correct, it does not.
And then the ambulance just stays flat.
Yeah, we didn't get anything specific, and figured just give them what we gave them in the past.
And it doesn't include assistance to Plymouth for they asked for some assistance as well.
Oh, yes, the,
For
what
the
was it?
truck,
Yeah, the big truck.
the apparatus?
Yeah, the apparatus.
So that's separate, that's not
Right,
included.
neither one of them are here. But that would be, like, yeah, that would be something that would be paid
Mhm.
back.
But that is,
Yeah.
but they are both, we are giving that.
Well, you've already committed the $2 million for the firehouse for
Right.
Harmonville. You need to decide. Plymouth asked for assistance with their truck, but I don't know that you made any decision yet on that.
And just where would that go? So that would go in, just which one of these
Buckets.
budgets is it going?
Buckets.
Yes, which one of these buckets is that going?
It would go
Come out in your
into,
capital. It would have to
The
go
same
on-
place as the Harmonville, as the loan, correct?
Yeah, like on a capital.
yeah, it can
list.
go in the capital, or it can come out of the capital contributions.
So it's not in something we have now? like-
Not currently, no, the 250,000 is not included.
And is that a loan or?
That would help them finance for,
Yeah.
a s-
Finance,
I forget what vehicle, but a specific fire vehicle.
It's already been ordered, yeah,
Mhm.
truck, big truck.
I'm just trying to find that. So it would be on page 10. Is that where that would go?
It would either be on page 10, or you could put it in the capital contributions, which also comes out of the general fund budget and the fire and emergency management section of it, which would be page 4 dash something in here, or page 5.
Which document are you in, Chris?
This one from tonight, page
It's
10.
page 10.
That's where we have the Harmonville.
That's where the 2 million is.
2 million.
Yeah,
Yep. All that.
Like, I mean, I do want to approve that.
Assist
I just
that.
I just want to know where we're putting it, just so I can
Right.
keep track of it.
okay, yeah, it would either come out of the capital, or it could come out of the general fund. It really doesn't matter, we're just moving money around.
And it's how much?
250.
250.
At a 0% interest, like Harmonville's? Bigger loan, would you say?
What's that?
At a 0%
Yes,
interest
yes.
rate, like you approved the Harmonville?
Yes.
Yeah, 0%.
Right.
I mean, I'll just trust you to find a place to put it.
Okay, yeah, it can go out of either, because it's ultimately going to be
Right.
financed by the same, by the general fund at the end, so either or.
Okay. Questions?
No, just try to keep my packets sorted out.
Are you in
And
favor
then-
of these amounts?
Yeah, and then the other thing, I know it doesn't go on here because it's separate, but do we want to just touch base with everybody on the Act
91?
What is it? What's the number?
91?
Act 91 that we
The-
had.
the
that we
real
talked about.
estate, the
Yes,
tax bills, yeah.
So in addition, we talked at the Emergency Services Board about the criteria for this, for the real estate tax rebate for volunteers. So I think that's something that we're, I guess, ready to move forward with.
Yeah, so
But-
I did look back. It was on your agenda, I think it was May or June. There was a draft ordinance, but in looking at it, it was not adopted, I guess, in waiting for the criteria to be established. The criteria you do, I think, by resolution, but you have to do an ordinance to, approve it.
So once the lawyers
So-
look it over.
Yeah, so they gave us.
Those lawyers, I swear.
The other night, we got a couple of samples from other townships and counties like Bucks County and some other places that have already adopted it. So we're going to forward them to Mike's office with your approval.
Oh, okay.
So we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right, just so we meet all of the statutory
Exactly.
requirements of Act 91.
Exactly.
Get that done.
Well, that's why we send it to Alex or Barbara, yeah.
And we're going to send out that payment, right? We're not going to be going through Berkheimer.
For,
Are we talking about the tax?
oh, yeah, not through Burkhardt.
Okay.
No,
All right,
I would
good.
think.
I wasn't sure what they were talking
Yeah.
about, if they were going to go through
Well,
Berkheimer. we can
I guess
just do
our
that.
thought was, it's.
I think it's easier for us to do.
Everybody pays their taxes on time, and then if you meet the qualifications, the criteria, then you can get a rebate. I mean, I think that's how we thought we'd do it, because Berkheimer collects all the taxes, so otherwise it would get really complicated to say, John doesn't have to pay his taxes, and, Bob doesn't have to pay his taxes, and,
Oh,
you
so
know
it
what I mean?
works
So
as a
it's a rebate,
rebate.
it's a reimbursement after you pay.
Would people have to apply for it, or would we just know?
No, the fire chiefs are going to certify, this is how it was described the other night, they'll certify the list of individuals who were active that year and qualifying
Right.
volunteers that meet the criteria, And then they would give us a list of those people, and I guess Kellen would have, he can find out from, and probably look it
Yeah,
up. You
I
can
can-
find out
I
what
can get it from
everybody
Bike Permit.
owes and get it from Bike Permit, and make sure it was paid, and then do a
Yeah, and
reimbursement.
it would just be easier for us to do it in-house than to have
Right.
Berkheimer actually do it.
Exactly.
So we would handle the
We
rebate.
would
Yeah,
take all the
that- yeah,
tax
it
money
would
in
be-
and then just
I think it would be
refund
so
it.
much
Berkheimer
easier.
collects it and we rebate it.
Mhm. Yeah, and the ordinance could contain the timing of all that,
More to come.
Yes, more to come on that.
All right. Any questions on this sheet? 1121?
We'll have that ordinance all ready to go before the next,
It probably won't be December at this rate because,
but I mean before our real estate taxes are due.
oh, yeah. I guess the other question is, and what year do you want us to, do you want to refund the 2023, or you want to refund 2024, or when do you want it to actually start?
Like, I guess 2024.
It would start, we would adopt it in 24, and you would refund for the year of 24.
I think, I would, that's what I assumed. But
Okay.
Yeah, we couldn't go ahead, we couldn't
No,
go
you
back,
won't.
could we?
I don't know what the law allows. We'd have to check with Alex.
I mean,
I think it makes sense to go with 24.
Start at
Yeah,
24.
start
Yeah.
at 24.
The year it's
year we
adopted.
24.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
that's what you guys expected, starting in 24, correct? You expected starting this year? Well, let's check with
Alex,
Alex.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would rather,
We didn't pass the ordinance, though. It really wasn't adopted yet. It
Right.
was drafted, you had a first reading in, like I said, May or June. But I went back to the whole list of ordinances. It was never adopted. It was going to get back to, like, start with the criteria, then the
right.
criteria came back, how about the same as the stipend? But then Alex said we have to add the 2 more criteria. There were 4 criteria in the law
So, like, when it's adopted, we can figure out if we can use it
for 23
for 23,
taxes.
and,
Yeah.
I mean, probably not a huge deal.
Does it matter to you either way?
it's not a huge amount of money, right? I mean.
It's not the biggest amount of tax anybody's paying, but
Right.
it's something.
Right, it's something, but
Yeah.
if we can, if
We can.
legally
If
we
we can hear from
can,
Alex that we can do it for 23?
Make it
then we
23
might as well,
when we
but
can.
Yeah.
but I'll, again, leave that to the lawyers.
All right, I'll put 2023 if possible. Okay.
I think the next one then is 11-22. Year 22. It's the donations to community nonprofit and sports organizations. So on this front page, it's just a breakdown of both the sports and community and nonprofit organizations. Up top, for the sports organizations, I bolded the organizations that asked for an increase from last year. And it came to about, between all of them, for just the direct funding, about an increase of $3,500. And then in the additional funding down there, the Plymouth Junior ABA, the first line, it says $6,000 payment to school district for gym time. That's an increase from $5,000 that they asked for last year. The $7,000 of donation of gym time in the community center, and the Norristown Wrestling of $300 payment to school district for gym, that's the same. Overall, it came to direct and indirect funding of $38,800. Down below, the community and nonprofit organization, only one asked for an increase, and that was the zoo from $5,000 to $10,000.
But that's for the Jaguar, right?
Well, so
Both.
they said that if, since you always make a 5,000, you have for many years, and last year, and another 5 for next year, that would be the Jaguar.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the 10, you really could make a 5, and we're good. They
Yeah,
just
we
asked
just-
for it in the first quarter of the year instead of at
that's
the
what I
second
thought,
quarter.
yeah.
Yeah.
So should we put that at 5?
Yep.
Yeah, I think. I mean, they're willing to go 5 for that.
So that just keeps that whole column the same.
Yep.
Yeah. And then up above, I don't know what you think, some of these sports
Yeah,
teams,
so
they've
the-
got like $250,000 in
So
the
on
bank.
the second page then, it shows the sports organization breakdown. The 2023 numbers, how many people participated, what percentage of them are residents, boy, girls, and how much of the donation per capita goes to each. But below is really what I think is eye-popping is the organization and the cash they have on hand. Some have $300,000 on hand. For the most part, a lot of these organizations have significant cash on hand. So that's just,
They don't need this money.
so some don't really, and some actually ask for an increase, they already have $300,000 on hand.
$30,000.
So I
They
think,
have tons of money.
I think last year we just kept it the same.
Yeah,
We didn't increase anybody, we just kept it the same.
Yep.
I know there's divided feelings up here as to what we should do with this, but I'll just let my feelings be known, and then you can take with them what you want. Again, some of them do have balances that are pretty hefty. If there's a decision to change this or to discontinue this, I think it needs to be done in the spring when they go to the Parks Board and ask for it. I don't like that they come and they do the presentation, they put the time in, and then we would say no. So if there's any thought about discontinuing or changing however this is done, I just think it would be better to do it, that they know about it at the beginning of the year, as opposed to just not getting it at the budget. So I would be in favor of just keeping everything the same as it was last year.
So, I'm sorry, Chris, you're saying if we were deciding not to give them anything, you'd want to ask for them to do that on a different timeline?
I think the
not-
process I think they shouldn't have to come into the Parks Board and present all this stuff if they're not getting anything.
Do you mean not getting anything or not
Any-
getting any, to increase their asking?
Not
for?
getting anything at all.
Oh, okay.
Like we say, you got $250,000 in the bank, we're not giving you 5,000, that kind of thing. I mean, I'm all for supporting sports within the township, I think it's important.
Yeah. Again, it's not a major, it's something. It's not a major part of the budget, but I think
They don't need increases.
the gesture is nice, and if you ever want to just change the council's philosophy on giving to the organizations, I just think that should be told to them up front, so that they don't even come in and ask for anything. I think I said the same thing last year, maybe, but then then we went around and we went through the whole process again anyway, so we're in the same spot again. Actually, I know I said the same thing last year. Check the minutes.
I have to
It's
say,
surprising the organizations that don't come, like swim. Yeah, like, not everything is here. There's some sports.
Some of them are club sports versus more of an intramural
Yeah.
kind of a thing. Is that right? I think I think the swim groups are club sports.
Yeah, I don't know the difference. Just, it's a sports within the township. Kids can join. They all pay.
Yeah, but I don't know if they take all abilities, like a club sport, right? Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, I know
Club
what you
sports
mean,
don't take
right.
all abilities. They take
Like some have
good-
open.
Good athletes.
Right, some
Yeah.
are open registration and some are like travel and that kind of
Sure.
stuff.
Right.
And some of these have both.
Selective.
Some have both embedded within, like
Yeah.
like soccer, for example.
Right.
And Mount Carmel Legion, that's definitely not all abilities. I mean, you
It
have to
depends
qualify.
on, it depends
for
on how
that.
many kids they have.
Oh,
It depends on.
okay.
but you're right, that's a more competitive,
That's
that's
what I
not
would
like
think.
recreational,
It's
everybody
not-
come
it's
and
not-
play, but they also
It's
sometimes
not
probably don't have.
softball
them,
or
yeah.
baseball, more out and play.
I'm kind of surprised by, not in a good way, the number of, like, the donation going to non-residents. Like, how many non-residents we're funding? Like,
But with that Colonial, doesn't that mean they're the kids that are in Conchie and White Marsh? They join the Colonial?
Well,
Soccer.
all of them.
All of them,
really,
I think.
All of them.
Yeah, I have more of the breakdown. I could show you it. I didn't put it in this packet, but there's also a section where how much other townships give to these organizations as well. So like
That's-
Plymouth,
Yeah.
or not Plymouth, White Marsh and Conchie as well.
Yeah.
But that's where I got the percentages
sports.
at.
I'm kind of curious about that, because, I mean, I mean, we're not giving them tens of thousands of dollars, but, I mean, we're still funding them. I'm not sure we need to fund kids from other townships and boroughs playing. I would hope that they're also funding these organizations and helping
They're
to
not
support.
all supporting the children.
I mean,
We are, but they're not.
yeah, that doesn't.
I don't know if they still go to them.
Right, and like I said, I mean, I feel like we talk about this, sorry, playing footsie with Kelly. I feel like we definitely talked about this before, and I think, again, if we want to change the philosophy of how we fund these groups, I think that has to be a whole separate conversation, and there's probably ways to do that, in terms, and I think Phil would know, and Parks and Rec would know, like, if you want to give them contributions just based on, like, helping them to reduce cost of registration for residents or things like that, that definitely complicates it more, as opposed to just giving them hey, here's our contribution and use it how you need to. But yeah, every organization on here is made up of kids from the entire colonial community, not just Plymouth.
And beyond.
And beyond. And beyond.
That's
Correct.
right, beyond.
And some more than others. I mean, Plymouth Little League is obviously the most Plymouth, but the other ones are pulling kids
Yeah,
from
there's like
everywhere.
East Norriton, and children come from a lot of places.
Yeah.
And because they may not have it in their own community, that may be the only opportunity they have. What about the increases that they're requesting?
Well, I would say we just keep it what they got last year.
Flat
Actually, it looks
Because I
like,
noticed that Plymouth ABA has a deficit.
Deficit.
oh no, that was just for the year. But
Yeah,
they have
they got
cash
a
on
quarter of
hand.
a
200,
million.
quarter million on hand.
They got a quarter of a
Oh,
million sitting in the bank.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too, it looks like the ones that have a lot of cash on hand are the ones that
Are
ask for the
asking for it.
increases.
Yeah.
I kind of picked that up.
They like to
But
keep
not
it at
wrestling, they don't.
300,000.
Yeah.
They get nervous.
Yeah, they're getting close. Yeah.
Wrestling doesn't have a lot of cash, but some of the others,
Yeah.
Plymouth Little League doesn't have a lot of cash.
Hockey burns through every dollar.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's an
Expensive sport.
Yes, extremely.
So I would agree with if we do anything this year, we keep it the same, and maybe we do entertain a conversation about like if and how we'd want to fund these groups going forward. We also provide a lot of services. I think looking at like we're paying for gym time, we're
Custodian.
taking care of fields, cleaning up the facilities. Like there's a lot of additional support that we're providing, even in addition to giving them $3,000 a piece, $2,500 a piece.
Yeah, like the basketball. I mean, they would say they need indoor space, so there's an extra $13,000 in addition to what they're asking for as a donation. So
Yeah,
it seems like a lot,
that's not
but
insignificant.
right? It's not. But and that's real money that we pay too. The donation to the community center is like an offset thing.
Mhm.
But,
Yeah, it's not-
but
they don't
we do
directly
pay.
get
We
it.
do pay the colonial school because they have to have people there when
For the
the
gym.
kids are inside that building. They have to have somebody open and close the doors and be there while the building's open. So
That's what the
It's at the
ABA
6,000
is playing,
yeah,
right?
$6,000.
They have to pay that money to the school. Wow.
right.
Wrestling
Well, we
would
have to
too.
pay it. We pay it. They don't pay it. We pay it.
Wrestling would
And
use
same
the
for
gym, right?
wrestling. Yeah. But, I mean, their argument is, if you're baseball or soccer, we're providing a field, and we're cutting the grass, and we're fertilizing it, and we're, taking care of that, so.
And
Yeah, they're not, I mean, they're not wrong.
Right, because they need to play their sport inside mostly,
Yeah,
so,
maintaining those fields are beautiful.
yeah.
I mean, maybe it's the conversation for like in anticipation of what they might ask for next year, like talking about, but, maybe part of it is if we're providing those services, we're not also giving you a donation. I mean, that's not a decision to make today, but.
It is,
But
but it's not a lot of money when you
No.
look at our overall
It
budget.
supports
And it is
the-
for children.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is my last word on this, ever. But, like, youth sports, and just knowing, obviously, from the inside, like, youth sports today is a multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar, it's actually disgusting what some of the people are making a living out of this stuff. It sickens me what families spend for kids to do this kind of stuff. But that's not what these community organizations are. Like, this is the antithesis of that. They're still reasonable. They're still, community leagues that do not operate on coaches making careers out of it and traveling all over the country for nonsense. So I think that, just from a philosophical standpoint, what youth sports cost families today, whatever we can do, whatever,
Help
the
offset
township
it.
can do to promote these organizations as an equity agent and a way for all kids to get involved, I think is important for the community. So,
And each
again,
of these organizations, I ask them, will not turn away any child because they can't pay. So they give scholarships
Yeah.
to children.
I'd be happy knowing that's where some of our dollars.
Yeah, or
Help them
maybe
to
next
fund
year
that.
require them, they give all residents, that the money we give goes to residents, they pay a little bit lower fee to join, a discount.
I don't know. I just know that they do not shut out any child if the family can't
Yeah,
pay
that
for
they still-
uniforms and all the sign-up fees that kids have to pay.
I swear my daughter told me her two little ones in King Prussia, I think soccer was like $250 each. I forget.
Intramurals, just for like,
Yeah, a little boy and a little girl. like
Oh, that
7
is
and 8.
cheap compared to what,
Oh my God.
We actually
I
have,
was
that is
fainted.
nothing.
on page 3.
I said, I would have given you balls to get out in the backyard.
Page 3 actually has the 2023
fees.
registration.
I was just
has-
looking at
yeah,
it. We're
has-
much lower
As well as the 2022.
than King of Prussia.
Mhm.
She came down here for field hockey for the little one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed too. We don't have good hockey here either.
I have a funny story about Philadelphia.
all right.
Okay, so same as last year, everybody agrees?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say.
And then also after page 3, you can see the community organizations that ask for funding. What their services provide, what they normally get from other municipalities. So that's pages 4 through 20. It's just more of the organizations that we are giving contributions to. So if you have a chance to read that. It's pretty much the same as last year, so.
Everybody was the same except for
Everyone,
the zoo,
yeah.
right? So we just kind of did the zoo and
Yep.
keep them at 5,000, and that's the same as last year?
Yep. So I guess
Down to number 7.
I'll go with that.
Yeah, the agenda, here's the agenda.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's right.
It's right
Probably
over
at the
here.
beginning and everything here. We'll just go here. We're to the millage, I think.
Are we 1123?
1123 is just a breakdown of the changes in, it's a breakdown of pretty much how we get, a summary of how we get to the ending cash balance of 4.5 million from 15.8 million. And you see a lot of those are one-time transfers out for capital purchases such as the pump room, township building, firehouse, sewer fund. And then down below, the projected cash balance is just shows what the increase in millage does. Not approving for a fire marshal vehicle. Also, the increases to the fire companies and keeping the sports organization contributions the same. So that's just a quick summary of how we get to that ending fund balance for the general fund. If there's no questions on that, then 11.
So what do you, can I ask, what do you think about the suggestions, the yeses and the nos? So we know that, we know you're good on the sewer rate increase ordinance. How about the budget and the millage going from 1.9 to 1.957? Is that 2 or 3%, Kellen?
Yeah, it's like 3%, I think.
3% increase, that's just a
3%.
very small cost of living amount.
It's less than other years for the real estate.
Yeah, and the fire service fee. So there are two separate ordinances that would have to be adopted on December 11th, and I would need your okay to advertise them, so that if you think, you know.
So just in numbers, I think it's all in here, but for the real estate tax, with the increase in millage, we're looking at, for the average home, $18 per year, correct?
Is that the
It's
472 to
$28.
500?
$28 per year.
Yeah, that's on the
So
next page.
$28 per year for the,
More per year.
for $28 more per year for the real estate tax. 18 more per year for the fire fee. Is that correct? Am I
So
looking at
total?
what am I-
Total is $28.
Total for the
Yeah.
so the fire fee plus the real estate is $28 total on the real estate tax bill would reflect a $28 per year increase on the average household.
Mhm.
Assessed at
Real estate
180,000.
and fire
Right.
services.
Yeah.
Yep, combined.
Got it.
For the sewer increase of 9%, it's $6 a quarter.
Yes.
So we're looking at 18 per year.
24.
So-
4 quarters.
I was a social studies guy, so 24 per year. So sewer increase and real estate tax increase, we're looking at about a $52 per year increase overall for the average household.
I'm sorry, what was the sewer, can you say that again?
24 per year.
24?
About $4 a quarter, $6 a quarter.
The $52 increase for the entire year for sewer, fire, and real estate.
For a house assessed at $180,000.
Right, which is the average assessment, roughly. Okay. All right, so
So what do you think?
I'm fine with that. I'm a yes on that.
Yes, yes, yes. Kathy's shaking her head. You good? Karen, you good?
Yeah, yes, but for the millage increases, and that's the only thing we're talking about right now, right?
And the fire service fee, the 2
Correct,
millages,
yes,
yeah.
the 2
Yeah, because
millages.
you already kind of, you approved.
And the
it.
sewer.
The
Yes.
sewer, half hour ago or so, yeah.
Yes,
All right, all good?
all good.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So, yes, yes. How about the vehicle for 85,000? Should we hold another year on that or more?
I think we can wait
Commercial
another
vehicle?
year.
I think if we can hold off.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then fire companies, sports, we just did. and-
Can I just, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
I don't want
go
to go, I just want to make sure. For the fire services fee, the increase from
Mm-hmm.
.72 to .82, and that generates about 167, 166, 667 revenue generated, right?
Additional, right.
That additional revenue it's what's in the increases, the 5%
It's what's in
increases
the 3 million given to the fire
Yeah.
services.
for this year. So it's
It's
kind
covering-
of dollar
it's
for
pretty-
dollar.
Pretty much covering it, yeah.
Okay.
So in other words, more general fund money doesn't have to be used, or not too much more.
No,
Right,
yeah.
it's pretty close.
It's pretty close to that amount, 1.37 million.
Can I throw a crazy
Lunch?
math problem out at you?
Oh, is
For-
it all X's and Y's?
For every, for roughly every dollar increase that residents pay in the fire services fee, we're generating approximately how much revenue for the emergency services? Do you know what I'm asking?
No, for every dollar.
Like, so we're going from .72 to .82, gets us to 166. Like, if we went from .72 to .85 to .92, something like that. Do you, like, for every tenth of a point increase in the millage, how much revenue does that generate?
Every tenth would be 166, right?
Yeah, it would be 166.
So we went up a tenth
Yeah.
to 166.
Mhm.
Right.
Be around
And
that,
that,
yeah.
Yes.
and that,
Each tenth would be.
that increase from .72 to .82
Mhm.
is resulting in,
20.
what's the dollar amount? 28?
How
No,
much of that
28's the whole
28
thing.
How much
28's
of
the
that
whole thing.
28 is
Real
coming
estate and fire
from
service.
Fire
that
department.
increase of the fire
Per
services fee?
household, Chris, or per total?
Per household, per
Per
household.
household?
For average household.
That's probably hard to say because businesses are going to pay that as well,
Okay, okay.
right?
Yeah.
Right, businesses
Yeah.
and
Yeah, on that
and
sheet, it
residents are
does
going to
say
pay.
Businesses will probably, on a $10 million.
Here, let me just get to the brass tacks of why I'm asking. Because, I'm looking at what we, certainly what we're increasing here and what we have. And, and I know we're not necessarily giving the fire companies everything that they ask for, and I think they know that. But for a $52 increase on average household per year, for a couple bucks more increase per year, is there a little room to give a little more here? Like, is there a little bit room for a little bit extra in the fire services fee?
Like,
to
we
add a
bump it
little
up a little bit more.
to add a little bit more on to the contributions,
Like each year
right?
moving forward?
Like if we, and I just like to look at it, what is this costing residents? Like at the end of the day, what is our increase costing residents? So if right now we're saying this budget is going to cost our residents $52 on average, $52 per year. If this budget costs our residents $55 per year, how much could we squeeze into the contributions to the?
Okay.
You might have to work on that, right, because of
I would-
businesses.
I'm giving you
Because of the businesses.
like a very difficult
Yeah.
math problem to look
Well,
at.
I would have to work
Yeah.
that in backwards to the calculation, kind of.
Yeah,
Because this number is, I guess, with the sewer and the real estate tax together, a little bit lower than I thought it was going to be. Like, I feel like, am I speaking nonsense here, or am I making any sense?
Well, is it-
No,
you're making- I understand what
You're
you're
trying to
So-
look at how we can increase a little bit
Yeah.
of contribution to the fire department.
Right.
Yeah,
Even
with
if it
with
increases,
a small
even,
incremental increase,
Yeah.
could we get enough to make a substantial additional contribution to
Correct.
some
If,
the
if,
fire
if jumping
companies
it
we're
from
looking-
$52 to $55
Yeah.
for the
Right.
overall increase is enough to add even another 90,000, that's enough to give them the vehicle.
Yeah.
So there's not going to be any increase in the earned income or tax
No.
or the business privilege tax, only real estate?
You're not
we
allowed
can't
to
raise,
fire.
we can't raise the
Yeah, you
business
can't do
business privilege tax.
Against the law. We're at the max for them, business taxes.
Can I just give you that as homework?
Yeah, I can figure that out. So you would want to see if we were to increase it to 0.85, how much more it would be for the residents.
Yeah, I guess I'm working backwards.
I was gonna-
Yeah,
yeah. See.
so like what, to get to like a $55, which basically would mean the real estate tax to like an additional like $31 per
Okay.
resident on average. Am I splitting
Yeah,
hairs
no, I
too
know
much
what you
here?
mean. Yeah, I can.
Karen, I've seen that look before. But
Yeah, I can figure that out. Actually, it shouldn't take too long, actually, because this is all in a formula.
Yeah, and so
An
like the
Excel
fun little
so
guess and
the
check.
businesses
Yeah, pretty much,
are
yeah,
going to
guess and check,
pay
yeah.
the same millage rates and the same fire service fees as residents, right? So you almost have to take those real estate revenues, divide them between residents and businesses to determine how much, you know. So it's a little bit of homework. It's not just like multiply by 10 or by 2 or, you know, 8. But that's the good thing about raising millage versus like earned income, because when you do that, the businesses don't pay. So we want the businesses to pay as well.
Got it.
And that's why we chose, like, are recommending that tax to increase. If you're going to have to increase some tax, you know, we raised the earned income tax twice on residents to pay for the debt service, as well as the real estate tax.
Correct.
We did half and half, like little.
Now we're not,
after
no more earned
after not doing it for
Yeah, the earned
20
income
years.
hadn't been changed since it was adopted.
And the real estate tax hadn't been changed for
20 years.
a long time.
We've been just gradually, you know, little
The
ones.
fire services fee, yeah.
And that was a big one, really, because that was never there before. It's like when the county pulled the community college out and made it a separate, you know, amount on your bill. It used to be included in their general money amounts, pulled out separately. And that's what the fire service fee has done.
I just think we're still being very
Do you
very
have-
fiscally responsible with this, but I just think there maybe is a little.
So what you would like to see it add like $3 to $5 to a
Correct.
resident?
Correct. Correct. If it's worth that, if that makes any kind of significant difference.
I can do that.
Everybody want something like that, or at least just to see what it looks like? Yeah.
Sorry for that
No, it's-
curveball.
That's good.
No, it's good. It's good.
I'd rather see what it looks like than make a decision from there than just.
Yeah, well, so here's the only problem with it, is that, I'll just tell you, so this, I don't know if I'm allowed to poll you on email, because this ordinance has to go in the paper, like early next week. So it will be advertised in time for adoption in December. So you won't have another meeting before it's time to make that decision. Unless you just want us to move forward with, calculate it and kind of move forward with that number, or, you know, whether, or
well,
poll
let me
you
add-
by
let-
phone or by poll you by email or
Let me
something.
let me ask it this way.
Permission, because we
Can-
won't meet again before I need the answer.
Can we, and I would just, evenly here across both Harmonville and Plymouth, can we agree to a whatever it takes to get, like, whatever, if we go up $3 more on the real, I know I'm like using estimates here, it's not really the scientific way to do it, but to get the real estate tax plus the fire tax increase to go to $31, whatever that generates would be split. as
Evenly,
it-
50/50?
Correct.
Yeah.
And if we agree to that now, then we don't have to go back and,
What do you mean split 50?
Yeah, I don't know what you mean.
well, contributions to the two fire departments, like,
Oh.
like not
All-
giving,
all
like
of
not
it
giving.
50% of what is
Yeah.
generated from that $3
But it all
per
has to
resident
come
increase.
from the fire
Wait, so what-
services.
So-
fee,
so-
doesn't it? Not
Yes.
millage.
Correct, but it's all, I mean, it's all in the same, it all gets added together. So I guess what I'm saying is,
Give 50% to whatever that is to,
Half to here and half to
and I
there?
have to, yep. This is, this one, sorry.
We're gonna split the
Half
number we
of
just
your-
asked Kellen to
Yeah.
calculate
$4
in
half,
half,
two-
one for each fire
Two
company.
each.
yeah, I mean, it's gonna be more than that, right? Maybe not.
Well, I thought you said you
I
wanted the
mean,
bill to go
I'm-
up $3 to
I mean,
$5, so
I
I'm
mean,
saying
whatever-
$4.
I guess
$3.
what I mean is whatever that generates in
Yeah, in tax.
in tax revenue.
Yeah.
Right,
And split that evenly
Correct.
between the two.
correct.
But he's looking
But not,
for
but
around
not.
$55
but
a
not
year.
the- But they're not being given the same amount. You're talking about
In
splitting.
addition
In addition to what's already being
to what they're already being
given.
given.
And split the
So whatever the
difference.
new
Okay.
So
amount
if
we're
it
adding on
generates
top.
100, we get $50 each.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to get us maybe a little bit closer to what they asked for and what we're offering, and just again, 'cause I just think we have a little bit of room,
Yeah.
and I
Work
just
it out.
complicated everything. But
Yeah, I can do it, yeah.
okay. And then just let us know what that is. But
Okay.
if we agree to it in principle now,
Yeah, that way we don't have to worry
So
about
it
it
will
not
be
being
like about
flat,
$4
yeah.
extra on the resident's bill,
yeah,
is what you want that fire millage number to be.
3.
$3 more. Okay.
So it'll be $55 a year for the average person rather than.
Correct. A $55 per
Rather
year
than
average
52.
increase total. That's just total. That's don't even think about that number that she did. That's sewer and everything.
Yeah, we wanted to
So-
go to like $31.
So we're really just focusing on the $31 for.
Because some people don't have to pay the sewer.
Right.
Some people aren't going to get their rate changed.
Right. Correct.
But still pays a lot more.
Yeah.
For now.
White Marsh's not going up, but I still pay a lot more.
But, okay,
I pay White Marsh.
okay. I think if Ebony is okay on that.
Yeah.
Then the final
that's-
one is the,
Yeah.
1125 would be the actual ordinance itself, right?
Yes. Well, so
For the
this is
visuals.
what has to change, right? Yeah, this
Yeah,
is going to have to
might be-
change because the fire service
Sure.
fee is in this. And so I
To
still have to change
reflect
this,
the-
and then we have to advertise it early next week. All right, yeah, the meeting, the workshop, everything feels early, right? I mean, the meetings are, I guess, what, the 4th and the 11th, but.
Oh, yeah,
First,
December, yeah.
yeah, December. Here before we know it, with the holiday and everything.
Yep.
All right. Okay, so we'll change that accordingly. And then I was notified by the chief. Are you ready for the next thing? The last thing here? I was notified by the chief, and it was, he was suggesting establishing a multi-stop at, on Sheffield at Weymouth.
It's also my fault.
And so this is drafted to add a stop sign. If you were coming down Weymouth, and you were approaching Sheffield, you would have to stop. Sheffield has to stop both ways
You want me to-
as they approach.
Do you want me
Weymouth.
to explain it a little bit, or?
Sure.
So this is something that I've been hearing for a while now, and we just really haven't gotten to it. But when you come down Weymouth to Sheffield, there's sort of an obstructed intersection. There is a stop sign on Weymouth, but there's not a stop sign on Sheffield. And multiple times, people have said to me, and I've seen it myself, where these cars have to actually inch out beyond the stop sign because they can't see around
It's hedge.
a hedge that's there, even when it's trimmed, which is like a back and forth, ongoing, nonstop battle. But even when it's trimmed, these cars have to kind of peak out, and there have been a lot of near misses. I don't think there's any really record of accidents there yet, but there have been some close ones. And I talked with the chief about it a little bit, and he doesn't think there's any danger in adding a stop sign there. It would actually be fairly similar to the one that was added on the other end of Sheffield coming in off the township line. There's actually a little more space between Germantown and Weymouth than there is between township line and Runnymede. But it's I think there's a little bit of a safety concern there with residents, and there's a bus stop there as well. So I did ask the chief to look into that.
And number 2 and number 3, so, all stop signs should be in our code book by ordinance. And as we were just reviewing everything, there are stop signs on Weymouth and on Knoll as they approach Sheffield, but there's no paperwork, there's no ordinance. So 2 and 3 are like housekeeping. As we looked at the whole street and, I made sure that we had ordinances for each of these stop signs, found that we did not have ordinances for numbers 2 and 3. So they're housekeeping, just putting them on the books so that the stop signs are already up. Chief didn't think we should add any new stop signs. There are 1 or 2 missing, but
So 1 is the new one, 2 and 3 are already there.
housekeeping, yeah, the stop signs are already in place. There's no change. The only new signs going up would be on Sheffield at Weymouth.
Sounds like a good idea.
All good?
A lot of people expect that an intersection is going to be all-way anyway. And if it's obstructed and you have to inch out, when Sheffield can just keep going, that's really dangerous.
Yeah. So that's what that is.
Some people will like it, and some people will not. But everybody will get used to it.
Safer, right?
Doesn't make it less safe.
Yeah. All right, is there any other thing? We have a brief executive session?
Okay.
Anything else?
No?
All right.
Okay.